Imagine your child disappears. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into years. The police find nothing, no clues, no suspects, no answers. Then one day, the letter arrives. The handwriting is neat. The message is calm, polite even. But as you continue reading, your worst nightmare becomes reality. The author claims to know exactly what happened to your missing daughter, and the details are so horrifying that the girl's mother reportedly fainted after hearing the letter read aloud. The man who wrote it wasn't seeking money. He wasn't demanding anything. He simply wanted to tell the family what he had done. His name was Albert Fish, and many investigators consider him one of the most disturbing killers in American history. This is his story. If you saw Albert Fish walking down the street in the 1920s, you probably wouldn't look twice. He appeared harmless, a thin, elderly man, gray hair, small frame, soft-spoken. The kind of person people trusted, but behind that ordinary appearance was a mind consumed by disturbing fantasies and violent compulsions. Fish was born in 1870. His childhood was filled with hardship. Several members of his family suffered from severe mental illness. His father died when he was young. Soon after, he was sent to an orphanage. According to Fish, life there was brutal. He later claimed the punishments and abuse he experienced deeply affected him. Whether those experiences created the monster he would become remains a matter of debate. But one thing is certain: the darkness inside him grew stronger with time. As an adult, Fish seemed surprisingly normal. He married, had children, worked various jobs. To neighbors and acquaintances, he appeared quiet and unremarkable. But beneath that ordinary life, he was hiding secrets, terrible secrets. He spent years wandering through cities and neighborhoods, feeding dangerous obsessions. Unlike many criminals who act impulsively, Fish was patient, calculated, and incredibly deceptive. He knew how to gain trust. He knew how to appear harmless, and that ability made him especially dangerous because people rarely feared him. By the time authorities began connecting him to serious crimes, countless opportunities had already passed unnoticed. In 1928, a 10-year-old girl named Grace Budd disappeared in New York. Her family was devastated. Police searched for answers, but leads quickly vanished. Years passed. The case grew cold. Then, 6 years later, everything changed. A letter arrived. At first glance, it looked ordinary. The writer introduced himself respectfully. He described seemingly unrelated events. Then the tone shifted. The words became increasingly disturbing. The author claimed responsibility for Grace's disappearance. He described details that convinced investigators he knew exactly what had happened. The contents shocked everyone involved. Even seasoned detectives struggled to process what they were reading. For Grace's family, the letter destroyed any remaining hope. For investigators, it provided the first major breakthrough in years. But it also raised a terrifying question. Who would write such a letter, for all his cunning? Albert Fish made one critical error: the envelope. Investigators carefully examined every detail. A clue linked the letter to a rooming house. Detectives began tracing the lead. Slowly, the puzzle pieces came together. Witnesses remembered an elderly man, quiet, polite, forgettable. Exactly the kind of person no one would suspect. The investigation eventually led authorities to Fish. When detectives met him, they were stunned. This wasn't the monster they expected. There were no threatening looks, no dramatic confrontations, just a frail old man sitting calmly before them. Yet the evidence kept pointing in the same direction, and soon Fish's carefully hidden world began to collapse. As investigators dug deeper, they encountered something unexpected. Fish often spoke about his crimes with disturbing calmness. Many criminals attempt to deny everything. Fish frequently did the opposite. His statements shocked detectives, psychologists and journalists alike. The more authorities learned, the more disturbing the picture became. This wasn't a case involving a single victim. Investigators began examining older disappearances and unsolved crimes. Some experts believe the true number of victims may never be known. Records from that era were incomplete. Evidence had vanished. Witnesses were gone. Many questions remain unanswered to this day, but one thing became clear. The harmless old man image had hidden something far darker than anyone imagined. The trial attracted enormous public attention. Newspapers across America followed every development. People struggled to understand how someone who looked so ordinary could commit such horrific acts. Psychiatrists examined him. Lawyers argued over his mental state. But ultimately, the court found him responsible for his actions. In 1935, Albert Fish was convicted. Later that year, he was executed in the electric chair. His life ended, but the fear surrounding his crimes did not. Nearly a century later, Albert Fish remains one of the most disturbing figures in criminal history, not because of how he looked, not because of how he spoke, but because he shattered a belief many people hold. The belief that evil always looks obvious. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it looks ordinary. A friendly face, a quiet voice, an elderly man who seems completely harmless. And perhaps that's what makes this story so unsettling, because the clue that finally exposed him wasn't a witness, it wasn't a confession, it wasn't a dramatic chase, it was a letter. A single letter that revealed a nightmare hidden in plain sight. If you enjoy dark mysteries, forgotten crimes, and unsettling true stories, subscribe to Noir Trace. Because sometimes the most terrifying stories are the ones that actually happened.